morning, hope you're all okay. Welcome back to Jeremy Strong, my granny's great escape. We're on chapter 3 today, which was called Dancing Dinosaurs. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what antics Granny gets up to. Here we go then. Granny is still going on about Lancelot. It was all she could talk about at breakfast. I saw him over the fence this morning. He winked at me, Nicholas. Oh, he is handsome. Don't you think he looks like Brit Pad? Brit Pad? Repeated Mum, shaking her head. Yes, you know, that lovely actor. She means Brad Pitt, I explained. Honestly, my granny is always getting muddled up on things like that. She thinks her favourite band is called Plop. I keep telling her it's Pulp, but she never remembers. Granny sighed and fluttered her eyelashes. Do you think I should ask him out, Nicholas, or is that a bit forward? Granny! We all stared at her. Dad had to sit down. Mum put her hand over her mouth. I just boggled a bit. I'm quite good at boggling. You stick out your tongue and make your eyeballs feel as if they're about to fall out. You can't ask him out, glowered Dad. Why not? How can I marry him if I don't ask him out first? Dad collapsed back with his mouth opening and shutting as he fought for words. It's not right. I won't have you going out with some geriatric Hell's Angels with a ponytail. For a fleeting moment, a cunning look crossed Granny's face. She looked just how I feel when I reckon I can trick Mum and Dad into what I want to do. A pony? She said. Who's Jerry? And why do we have to know about his pony? You can't go out with Lancelot, my father hissed. He's over 60. It's criminal. Granny smiled cheerfully. I had a pony once when I was small. His name was Black Beauty. He was brown all over, actually, and he should have been a she. But I had read the book and I wanted to call my pony Black Beauty too. He didn't seem to mind. Dad got to his feet and stood over Granny. Stop pretending to be deaf. You are not to see Lancelot. Do you hear me? Granny glanced at her watch. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Ronald. I'm missing my favourite snooker programme on TV. You're a good son to me. See you later. She swished off. She swished out of the room, leaving Dad staring after her in stunned silence. I think your mother is in love, Mum said quietly. She's fallen for an elderly Hell's Angel from next door. Now what are you going to do? You think this is funny, don't you? Fumed Dad. Yes, giggled Mum, and I have to admit it was funny. That's it, snapped Dad. I shall go and see Mr. Tugg and complain. This announcement reduced Mum to complete hysterics. You're going to complain to Mr. Tugg? Oh, that's brilliant. That will make a change. There you go, there's Mum having a little laugh. Dad went striding up to the Tuggs' driveway and rapped on their door so hard he hurt his knuckles. Mr. Tugg had hardly managed to open his front door before Dad bellowed at him. I won't have my mother marrying your father. I forbid it. I beg your pardon. Dad repeated himself while Mr. Tugg shoved his hands on his hips and demanded to know what all this was about. So Dad explained. Mr. Tugg was rather surprised, and the two men began talking. Their voices got lower and lower. Neither Mum nor I could hear a word. This was very unusual. Normally, when Mr. Tugg and my father talk to each other, their voices get higher and higher, and they end up bellowing as if there's an entire mountain valley between them. Mum and I crept round the side of our house and were greeted by an amazing sight. Dad and Mr. Tugg were whispering quietly to each other and nodding in agreement. Yes, nodding in agreement. They never agree about anything. What was going on? Quick, said Mum. He's coming back. Dad crunched up our drive, wearing a mysterious smile. Mum stopped him at the door. Ronald, what's happening? Dad looked at us triumphantly. I told Mr. Tugg that my mother was not to see or speak to Lancelot. Mr. Tugg is in complete agreement, and he's going to shut his father in his bedroom until he behaves himself. Mr. Tugg can't do things like that to his own father, cried Mum. Yes, he can, said Dad. And what's more, I'm going to do the same to my mother until she comes to her senses. Ronald, how could you be such a dragon? But Dad wouldn't listen, and he went off to tell Granny about her doomed love life. Mum stood at the open door, staring out at nothing in particular. She had a faraway look on her face that slowly changed to a determined frown. She grabbed my hand. Nicholas, do you know what we are going to do? We are going to set Granny free. I have to admit that this sounded rather grand. It was getting like some fairy tale. We already had Sir Lancelot the Brave and a beautiful princess. Well, maybe not exactly beautiful, and not exactly a princess either, but you know what I mean. We even had 2 dragons, namely Mr. Tugg and my dad. Mum smiled happily, and I felt terribly proud of her. We're going to set Lancelot free too, she declared. To tell you the truth, Lancelot didn't need much help being freed. Later that day, I was in my bedroom when I happened to glance out the window, and there was Lancelot climbing over our garden fence. He looked quickly all around, zipped across to the T-Rex, and promptly vanished. I stood there watching and waiting, but nothing happened. The seconds ticked by. Where had Lancelot gone? Then T-Rex moved. At least the bit of him that Dad had actually finished constructing moved. Staring out of my window, I managed to catch a glimpse of Lancelot's face inside Tyro's jaw as the tailless monster tiptoed awkwardly across the grass to Granny's window. Have you ever seen a Tyrannosaurus wobbling around in your garden going psst very loudly? It's not really the sort of thing you expect dinosaurs to say. Not even half dinosaurs. Poor Lancelot was desperate to get Granny's attention, but she really is deaf, even though it comes and goes a bit. Eventually, he just stood beneath her window shouting, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." This was getting more like a fairy tale by the minute. I think Lancelot must be almost as crazy as my dad. There you go, there's a picture of him dressed as the dinosaur. Unfortunately, Granny didn't hear him, but Dad did. All at once, Dad's karaoke machine bellowed out over the back garden. "Don't come a step closer or you're a dead dinosaur." Dad was standing at his bedroom window shouting into the microphone and holding a catapult that he had confiscated from me. Lancelot froze on the spot. "Now, take off that disguise and go home. You wait until your son hears about this. You'll be in for it then." Poor defeated Lancelot slid out of the monster and hightailed it back over the fence. You've got to give him full marks for trying. I wonder what he'll do next. There you go, there's the picture of Dad shouting at him. I wonder what he'll do next too, do you? We'll have to wait and see till tomorrow. And tomorrow's chapter is called I See More Than I'm Supposed to. Wonder what Nicholas is going to see. I dread to think. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again tomorrow for chapter 4. I hope you're enjoying this story. I am. Take care now. Bye.